What's our chance?
The fixture list isn't kind, and with everything else going on, if they're 7 games in without a win, all of a sudden that rises to an unbearable temperature for the owner.
High to the far post, nodded down by Bradley, and this time Charlton do have their goal.
If we give West Ham opportunities and lose the ball in bad areas, then West Ham will punish us and win the game. And we have to be a bit more clinical than what we have been through pre-season in front of goal. And if we do that, then it'll be an interesting game.
Yes, of course, the football continues later on. Well, tonight, actually, you can hear live commentary on Talksport, the Carabao Cup second round as West Ham face Charlton, a big game as well for West Ham. In a moment, we'll get the views of Charlton with their blogger, Catt will be joining us. But first, we can say hello and good morning to the editor of the Knees Up Mother Brown West Ham website, Graeme Howlett, joins us now. Graeme, good morning to you.
Morning, Andy. How you doing, buddy?
We're good, very well. Thanks so much for coming on. I suppose I have to start with the obvious question, just how big a game is this now after what happened at the weekend?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, for the fans, it is a big one. But West Ham Cup games always are relatively big, but whether or not that feeling is echoed in the manager's office or the ballroom remains to be seen. We know that in recent years the club haven't taken the League Cup particularly seriously, so we'll have to wait and see what sort of team that Moisey puts out tonight.
Do you think, Graeme, that you might see a couple of the young... I can't believe there's not a few of the young lads on the bench. I watched the game at Southend, when your under-21s beat them 3-1, and you got a young kid called Osama Ashley, you got the lad, Odubeko, who scored 2 like weldies. As a West Ham fan, would you want to see a couple of them maybe involved?
Yeah, well, interestingly, we played Chelsea in the under-23s yesterday afternoon. And Odebuko, Alisi and Baptiste were all left out of the squad. So I think it's quite likely that they're going to be involved at some point. We're probably going to see players like Darren Randolph step in instead of Fabianski and 1 or 2 others. Maybe even those players that didn't get an opportunity to start on Saturday, players like Felipe Anderson, Manuel Lenzini and Sebastian Haller even start against Charlton. So we shall see, but I'm sure it'll be a bit of a mix-up anyway.
I'm glad no one mentioned Dean Garner. Let me ask you, I was doing the show, I was doing Drive actually on Friday, and when we got round to predicting this game, the Newcastle game, everyone predicted an away win because they've bought really well, and I think you haven't bought anyone whatsoever. Did you worry going into that game? Do you worry for the season ahead? What did you make of the performance at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the performance was pretty shocking, Andy, wasn't it? It was, but not really unexpected in the circumstances. I mean, you pointed out there that the club didn't invest in anyone during the break. We called it pre-season. It wasn't really a pre-season as such. It was all very strange. But as you mentioned, the only movement in terms of the squad was players going out. We lost a few at the end of last season. Players like Zabaleta and Sanchez left the club, and of course, Grady Diangana went a few weeks ago, which has caused, ruptions amongst the fan base. The player that we felt had a good season on loan in the Championship last year, did really well for Albion. Was looking forward to him coming back and showing us what he can do, being, another year older with that added experience that you can only get in, the Championship that's vital. And of course, they've sold him. So, no, it wasn't a surprise at all. I mean, Newcastle strengthened. I mean, it was notable to see the players that they brought in Callum Wilson and Jeff Hendrick. Both new players scored. So, it just goes to show what an investment can do. And, we're very worried as West Ham United supporters about the season ahead. And it certainly was no surprise to any of us that we were beaten on Saturday.
Graeme, looking at the game, when you were struggling before the January transfer window and you brought in Soucek and Jarrod Bowen, it looked like you needed legs, and they gave you that impetus, and the team picked up. The thing that, if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be worried about is when you're 1 and 2-0 down, it was just like an air of resignation around the team, even from David Moyes. It didn't look like anybody got angry. David Moyes didn't look like that he was angry, even in the interview. Do you know what I mean? When he's at his best, he's got that sort of angry eyes, isn't he? He gets all emotional. There was nothing at all from anybody.
Yeah, it was, you just wonder. We saw the week before that tweet from Mark Noble following the sale of Diangana, which was extraordinary, really, for a Premier League club captain to go public with something like that. And you kind of got the impression that, Mark Noble is not green. He's not a new professional. He's not someone who's just come into the game like he's likely to shoot from the hip. This is a guy who's been in the game, at the top level for 15 years. He knows exactly what he's doing. So the kind of impression you get from that is that it was orchestrated and planned. And the fact that so many players rallied behind him afterwards, people like Jack Wilshere tweeting their support, a string of first-team players also agreeing with him, liking his tweet, and then, of course, David Moyes not coming out and condemning him, the club not finding him as you'd expect in the circumstances. And we saw Mark Noble on the bench when he came off on Saturday looking absolutely distraught.
Graeme, let me ask you, Graeme, because we're running out of time. I just want to ask you one last question. So staying on that kind of subject, you've got horrible games coming up. I can't see a win if I'm being honest. You've got Arsenal away, you've got Wolves at home, you've got Leicester away, Spurs away, we never know with that one, and then Man City at home. If you go through those games that I've just mentioned without picking up any points, do you expect to see any change? And I'm not talking about the manager because I don't blame him at all. Do you expect to see any change, the club being sold or, those positions, being under the spotlight even more? Or do you just expect it just to carry on irrelevant of what happens on the pitch?
It's difficult to say. I mean, there's been a lot of rumours circulating in recent days and weeks about the future of the club when the current owners are looking to sell up, as I'm sure you're aware. Interestingly, if we look at the corresponding fixtures last season, we didn't pick up a single point for our next 6 fixtures. Well, we didn't pick up one at home against Newcastle last year. We lost that 3-2. So if we repeat last season's form, we're going to be going into November without a single point on the board. Will Moyes be blamed? Possibly, because we know the owners like to pass the buck a little bit and they're not particularly keen to come forward and hold their hands up. But I don't think Moyes will go. I'm fairly certain that they'll stick with him. I don't really see a lot changing.
Okay.
Maybe I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 players coming in the next few days before, next couple of weeks before the window closes. But who is the question? I'm sure it'll be loanees rather than the kind of young players that Moyes told us he wanted to build the squad around.
Something needs to happen. Listen, before I let you go, a prediction for that game, as I mentioned, it's live. It kicks off at 7:30. It's on Talksport. West Ham against Charlton. Graeme, what will the score be?
We could win 5-0, we could lose 3-0. I don't know, so I'll go for
2-2.
3-1 win to West Ham.
Okay, 3-1. All right. Well, listen, if you can, enjoy it. Thanks for coming on, Graeme.
Cheers.
Cheers, Graeme.
There you go. As I mentioned, Graeme Howlett, the editor of the Knees Up Mother Brown West Ham website. That's the West Ham angle. Let's get the Charlton angle from the Charlton Live podcast. We can say hello and good morning to Lewis Catt. Lewis, good morning to you.
Morning, guys. You okay?
We're good, very well. Thanks so much for coming on. Who's favourite in this game tonight? We just heard from Graeme. He's totally unsure as to which way it's going to go, but Charlton come into it, on the back of what was a difficult pre-season with the takeover uncertainty still hanging over the club, which of course still remains, but you've had a good couple of opening results. So who's favourite going into this one?
I'd say on paper you would say it would be West Ham, but I'd fancy Charlton at the moment, really. We haven't really got a huge amount to lose. I think it will be seen as a decent test for our side, very young side as well, given that we've got the off-field issues preventing us from really strengthening and getting a senior side together. So there are a lot of young academy players in there, and a trip to West Ham will be a really decent test for them. And I think that I'd fancy us to give it a real go, but if you're looking at it on paper, you'd have to say West Ham would be the favourites because the divisions, the gap in the divisions and the quality of squad that they have compared to our very small squad that we have at the moment will probably just about outweigh it.
Lewis, you mentioned your off-field problems. Did you have a belly laugh or a wry smile when Lee Bowyer was in the paper, wasn't he, before the season started and said, and the headlines are, I just want to manage a normal club?
Yeah, pretty much. I think you can do nothing but agree with him, really. And as a fan, especially, I have huge amounts of respect for Lee Bowyer.
He's honest.
And, yeah, he's honest, and the loyalty that he shows is just incredible. And at the end of that Leeds game back in July when we got relegated, his post-match interview was almost like a goodbye. And I'd kind of accepted that we were very lucky to have him for as long as we did and that he was going to go. So the fact that he's still here now and putting up with the conditions that he does have to work under, because, I don't know any other football club that works the way we do at the moment, is phenomenal. And he keeps us together as a supporter base as well. I think I've said before so many times that with the Ronan de Châtelet issues that we had for so long, you felt quite disengaged with what was going on and the managers that you were bringing in and stuff like that. And since Lee Bowyer came in, he really did bring everybody back together. And he said after our playoff win that we were going to go on a journey. And you can quite rightly say that we have been on a journey. And probably not the best journey at all with the off-field issues, but we're very, very lucky to have him. And I think that as a manager, and as he goes, he's one of the best managers in the EFL, and we're incredibly lucky that he's our manager.
Joe, it's amazing as well. I just looked at your squad. You've got obviously a couple of Colchester rejects in Macaulay Bonne and Alex Gilbey, but then your two signings of Connor Washington and Jonathan Williams. As Charlton fans, you must have thought they're not bad.
Not at all. I mean, we've had Johnny Williams now. He came in January a couple of seasons back when we were in League One, and even then I was very happy that we'd managed to sign a player of that calibre, especially given the budget that we were allowed.
You got him from Palace, didn't you? That's the same one, isn't it?
It is, yeah, Johnny Williams.
Yeah, because I think his nickname there was was it Johnny Esther they used to call him?
Johnny Esther.
Yeah. Does he play like Iniesta now?
I'd say he does. He has a lot of quality about him, 100%. There's one thing with Johnny is that injuries have very much hampered his career. He's been very unfortunate with injuries, and I imagine if he had stayed fit a lot longer, he wouldn't be playing in League One whatsoever. I imagine he'd be in and around the team at Crystal Palace.
That's what I mean. It's like having a new sign, isn't it? With him coming back, and Connor Washington as well, scoring at the weekend against Crewe.
Yeah, 100%. I said in our Charlton Live show actually about Connor, I think that he's a fantastic signing, and how we managed to get him over the line with the embargo in place is quite remarkable, because he's got a fantastic record at this level. Did very well with Peterborough before he made his move to QPR. Didn't do quite as well in the Championship, but has done well at this level, and he really impressed me on Saturday as well. So I'm excited to see what's to come from Connor. And it's a big season for Johnny as well, because I think last season he looked fantastic in the Championship and again was hampered by injury. I didn't really expect him to stay given the drop in division, but the fact that he has, I think he's just happy to be playing football and to be somewhere that he's liked, and that's a big factor for someone like Johnny who's had such a tough career.
Listen, Lewis, it's not the greatest line in the world, and I know it's getting late, so I'll get a prediction from you if that's okay. West Ham against Charlton, live on Talksport tonight at 7:30 in the Carabao Cup second round. What would the score be, Lewis?
I'm going to go 2-1 Charlton.
2-1 Charlton. Okay, all right, lovely. Listen, thanks so much for coming on. Enjoy the game if that's possible, and I'm sure we'll speak to you sooner rather than later.